Israel's strike on residential buildings in Doha shocked the region, with Qatar condemning it as a violation of sovereignty. An emergency Arab Islamic summit has now been called in response. And to help us understand the significance, we're joined by Dr. Olsi, Assistant Professor, Department of History, International Islamic University, Malaysia. Doctor, thank you for doing this. Now, Israel has previously struck targets in Gaza, in Lebanon, Syria, Tunisia, and even Yemen, but a strike inside Qatar is unprecedented. Now, from a historical lens, why would Israel risk expanding operations into the Gulf?
Well, according to the regime of Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel thinks that the year 2024 and 2025 have been quite successful for Israel. Israel is acting like Nazi Germany, like Hitler in 1939, when Nazi Germany was attacking countries across Europe and destroying them. So 2024 was quite successful for Israel, because according to the calculations of Netanyahu, he thinks that by killing a number of leaders of the resistance axis of Iran, like President Ebrahim Raisi, Ismail Haniyeh of Hamas, Hassan Nasrallah of Hezbollah, Yahya over toppling Bashar al-Assad and having a regime change in Syria, Netanyahu thinks that he has been quite successful on destroying the axis of resistance. Moreover, the 12-day war that Israel launched against Iran on June 13, when Israel managed to kill the top commanders of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, according to Israeli calculations, have been quite successful. And now the only obstacle which stands between Netanyahu and Palestinians for having the final solution is the so-called moderate Sunni world. Qatar has been positioned as the moderate country which was trying to negotiate between Palestinians and Israelis. But the regime of Benjamin Netanyahu, which does not want to have peace with Palestinians and to even reach a deal, went on to attack Doha on 9th of September 2025. This came as a great shock for Qatar, but not only Qatar, but also for Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Egypt, the so-called the moderate Arab Sunni bloc, which until now they had distanced themselves from Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah. And the attack on Doha was an attack on the Arab world. For this reason, we're having right now the emergency meeting in Doha, where we have the leaders of the Islamic world, from Anwar Ibrahim of Malaysia to probably Erdogan of Turkey and Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, who all are going to Doha in order to address the threat of Israel, because Israel was never supposed to attack Qatar.
Right. Doctor, now you've mentioned that Qatar, they've also built their reputation as being a mediator in the Palestinian issue. Now, how might this attack on Doha affect Qatar's credibility and also effectiveness in that role?
Well, this was a major blow not only for Qatar, but even for the Trump administration. The first Trump administration with the so-called Abrahamic Accords, and the second one has tried in a way to normalize the relations of Israel with the Arab world. But what is going on now, the regime of Benjamin Netanyahu, they do not care about the American administration. They want to carry on with their genocide. And Qatar, which until now was in a way turned by the Americans as a major mediator between the axis of resistance and the axis of Zionism, which is the United States and Israel. By bombing Doha, Netanyahu, in a way, gave a message to Donald Trump and to the Americans that we do not want to negotiate with Arabs. And this is a major blow, and we have to have in mind that Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, they host American military bases. The largest military base in the Middle East is in Doha, and Qataris pay for this in order to get protection. But the US administration allowed Israel to bomb Doha. This was a major blow even for the prestige of the United States among the Arabs.
Right. Doctor, now there is an emergency Arab Islamic summit that is currently happening in Doha. Why is this gathering so significant and important at this particular moment?
It is very significant because the bombing of Qatar, a moderate country, a country which was in a way positioned between the United States and Israel and the Palestinians, by bombing it, Israel showed that its problem is not the so-called terrorism. Its problem is not Hamas. Its problem is not Hezbollah, is not Iran, but is all the Arab world. And probably this is one of the most critical moments in the modern history of the Arab world, probably since the war of Yom Kippur in 1973, or probably the Arab-Israeli War of 1967, when we have all the Arab and Islamic world, countries from Turkey to Saudi Arabia to Iran to Malaysia, who all gather and they forget their differences and they want to address a real challenge, which is the unprovoked Israeli aggression. The Qatari foreign minister has mentioned to American media the presence of Hamas, the representatives of Hamas in Doha was made based on orders by the Americans. It was the Americans who told to the Qataris, take Hamas here so that we can negotiate with them. And now in this moment, and in particular, the rich statedoms of the Gulf, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, feel threatened because in the past 5 decades, the Americans, they have invested heavily on these rich oil statedoms. And like President Trump told to these sheikdoms in January when he visited them, he told them, you pay us and we will protect you. Suddenly, these Gulf sheikdoms, they find out that the money that they have spent to the Americans is not giving them a protection. And now the Saudis, the Qataris, they are all asking the Egyptians and the Turks and the Iranians to come to Doha and to tell them, look, we need your help. Americans are not helping.
Mm-hmm. Right. Malaysia's Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim is also attending the summit in Doha. Now, what do you think is the role Malaysia can play in shaping this global conversation?
Well, geographically, Malaysia is far from the center of the Arab world, but Malaysia, with its expertise and its connections, especially in Asia Pacific, can be a major interlocutor on, in a way, mobilizing the international community against Israeli genocide in Gaza and Israeli aggression against the Arab world. And the Arab world is looking at Malaysia with great hope, because we have to remember that Malaysia is a country which neighbors China, and China is a growing military and economic superpower. And in this very moment, the Americans, they are very worried about what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing. Because what Benjamin Netanyahu did by bombing Doha, he destroyed 5 decades of Anglo-American investment in the Arab world. And the presence of Dato Anwar there will give an international and an Asian perspective and voice to the conflict by showing to the Zionist bloc that the bombing of Doha does not affect Hamas only, does not affect Qatar, the Gulf countries, but even the countries of Asia Pacific.
Right. Dr. Olsi, my last question for you. We have about 1 minute. Now, a lot of people often say these summits, they end with very strong statements, but very little action. Now, what are some of the concrete steps that these Arab nations and also these Islamic nations could take now to make an actual real difference on the ground?
We have to see from the elephant in the room, which is Saudi Arabia, who have most of the money from these Gulf countries, and the Egyptians. We have signals, and for those people who follow Israeli media, there is a very high probability of Egypt going to war with Israel. And these Arab countries are looking forward to Egypt as a kind of protector. And what we're having in this moment, I believe that especially after the Israeli destruction of the Iranian axis of resistance, we might see the coming of the Arab bloc with Egypt, like in the era of Gamal Abdel Nasser, where the Arab world will unite, probably behind Egypt and Turkey and Iran, and to create a unified bloc against the Israeli aggression. We have to wait and see today and tomorrow, and we hope that this extraordinary meeting of the OIC and the Arab League will not only come with a statement, and Qataris, they want concrete steps. So it depends, and we have to wait and see what is going to come.
Yep, and that's all we can do right now is to just wait and see. Thank you, Doctor, for your insights. Now, we will bring you more updates as the world is watching closely what emerges from Doha. More global updates in just a moment. This is The World on BERNAMA TV. Stay with us.